Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle.
Radio City Talk.
My name's Mick Coyle. Welcome to another edition of Mental Health Monday. And we're going to catch up with an organisation who first joined us on the programme. Let me double check. On the 3rd of June 2019, we were talking about Gallier House, and we were talking about the incredible work of Jess Gallier. Well, we're not quite a year on, but actually the work they've been doing is now a year old under the guise of the Martin Gallier Project. And we thought we'll get them on the show and into the studio to talk about the incredible things they've achieved so far and their incredible aims for the years to come as well. So let's welcome Jess Gallier back to the studio. Jess, great to see you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you, Mick.
You've been busy since we last spoke. That's probably fair to say, right?
We have been incredibly busy.
And you brought with you the heavies.
Yep.
You've got a couple of your volunteers who are here as well. For people who are new to the idea of what you're trying to do and what you're trying to achieve, are you okay just maybe setting up for us the reasons behind why you're so passionate about mental health?
Yeah, of course. So in 2017, I lost my dad to suicide. He was 55. And as a family, we went through, obviously, the worst possible thing you can go through as a family. And I just thought, like, this is going to define me one way or the other. And I either allow it to define me in a really negative way or I allow it to define me in a really positive way. So what I chose to do was take all those lessons that we learned and all the things that we learned throughout his inquest to build a service that was bridging that gap and becoming that safety net, really.
And we spoke last time and you talked about missed opportunities, connections that could have been made and missed. As you've sort of sought to rectify some of those issues, what sort of things have you come up against? Has that given you greater clarification about what happened to your dad?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got quite a big picture of what happened to Dad because we went through quite a hefty inquest process. So we have got a lot of that information, and it's stuff that we see day in, day out, and none of it's massive flaws. It's little things like waiting times for services, criteria, accessibility of things, barriers to accessing certain services, and it's a lot clearer now, and it's exactly what we thought, but it's obviously fine-tuning those things and rolling with the punches and evolving as those things are coming up on a daily basis. So
when you were talking through and looking through those reasons or moments, a lot of people would have looked at them and thought there was an authority there or there was some other body which should have been intervening. But if you're going to rectify that, in some ways you've got to sort of replicate what those bodies or institutions would have done. Now, that's a lot to take on, isn't it, in terms of what they're tasked with, what they're charged with doing. But for you to go, well, I'll try and be that person, or I'll try and create an environment whereby those interactions can take place in a different type of environment. That's a huge undertaking, isn't it?
It is. There's been a lot of research into where these interventions best take place, and it all comes back with the same stuff, that a non-clinical setting is much more preferable than a clinical setting. And the thing that's worked so well over this last year is that, and is kind of dealing with people's practical issues. So obviously, people take their lives every day, and it's very rarely one thing that's created that, and it's about sitting down with somebody and saying, right, what has got you to this point, what is going on in your life, and which of those things can we help you with and do for you or with you, which is not, that's never going to happen in a hospital, in an A&E or in a doctor's surgery, because that's just not what they're set up for. So that's what's worked really well in terms of bridging those gaps and making some change going forward.
I think waiting times, and they get mentioned many times on this programme, are so crucial because, of course, if there is a situation with a 999 call or an A&E, that's the point at which there is an emergency there and then. And I can't help but think sometimes when people hear about waiting times, it puts them off from even getting on the waiting list in the first place, because they're thinking, well, if I can't see somebody for 6 months or 9 months or 12 months, what's the point of putting my name down in the first place? And I presume you've heard sort of similar anecdotal evidence.
We hear that every day, every single day. And the waits on the Wirral, where we're based, are very high for talking therapies. So we see that quite often. And by that point, if someone's in crisis, they're just not able to kind of have that thought process where they think, logically, actually, I'll get on that waiting list because in 6 months' time it'll be worth it, because they haven't got the motivation to do that, so they just don't bother going on the waiting list, and then obviously things progress and get worse.
The last year you've been really busy. You've been
Very busy.
super duper busy. Just explain what the project looks like 1 year on.
Okay.
If you like.
So, as I said before, we've evolved very much with the things that we see every day, and we're learning and growing every single day and changing the service. But the way it looks at the moment is we've got the Suicide Prevention Centre in New Ferry, where people can just turn up in crisis, self-assess crisis. So you don't need to be referred by a GP or the hospital. You don't need to hit a criteria. If you believe you're in crisis, you're in crisis. That's it. So there's no barriers to entry there, no age limits, or you could come from anywhere in the country really if you wanted to. So that's the service there. We obviously do all sorts of lovely fluffy things as well, but the whole point of that building being there is to see people in a self-assessed crisis. And we then deliver support to the whole family, which includes the assist training. So we spoke about last time the applied suicide intervention skills training, which we deliver into a family unit so that support can continue at home, and that person that's supporting someone that's considering suicide is able to intervene at the earliest possible time, so they don't get to the point where they're reaching crisis again. So in a nutshell, that's what we're about, that's what we're doing.
So when we first spoke, those were the plans and those were the early steps you were taking.
Yeah.
A year on, when you've had those conversations, you've involved the families, what sort of reaction has it had? What sort of things have you been told? Give us some idea of the numbers of people who've come through the door as well.
So we've done a year to the day yesterday, and we've maintained a 0 suicide rate. So every single person that's used the service is still with us to tell the tale, and all the people that we've trained in assist, all the people that they're supporting are all still here to tell the tale as well. So those numbers are upwards of 400. So there's upwards of 400 people that would say they've been saved by the project. In terms of how many people we've seen, it's really hard to put a number on that, because some people pop in for a brew and a chat, to scope the place out to see if it's somewhere that they would feel comfortable coming if they were in crisis. Some people come in just for a bit of a gab, really. And then some people come in terrified about a family member and needing some support and some advice. And the numbers have just been so much higher than we ever could have expected.
I mean, let's just take a little moment there to just reflect on some of those numbers that you've touched on there, with the 400 individuals and a 0 suicide rate among those 400.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily know the ins and outs of all of their situations, but the fact that they were coming through your door suggests they were potentially vulnerable.
Yeah.
And the interaction with them, the intervention from yourselves, has potentially saved those lives.
Well, those 400, those 400 people are people that we can say we did an intervention with. So they're not someone that's come in and said, "Oh, I'll come in and have a brew," or "Can I get some advice for a family member?" Those are people that have come and said, "I want to die. I need you to help me and keep me safe." So those are 400 really serious situations that could have been very, very different.
That's incredible, isn't it?
It is, isn't it?
But isn't it amazing as well that 1 year on we're having this conversation again, and you had the idea, you've driven the idea forward, and you've driven the ideas forward with a small team of people, and that team's got bigger and the people have come on board. But then that idea has grown, it's become a reality, it's become a project, and it's become a project that people have recognised, and a project that people now turn to at the lowest point in their lives.
Yeah.
So you've not only established something which is doing incredible work, but you've also delivered and continue to deliver on it.
Yeah.
As well. Well done.
Thanks. Thank you very much. I'm sure one day when I'm old and I'm sat in a rocking chair, I'm sure I'll look back and go, "That was incredible. That was amazing. How did we do that?" But when you're in it, you don't see it the same way that other people see it. But obviously, we hear great praise every day. And I really hope that one day I can look back on it and go, what an incredible thing to do. What a great time of my life. But at the moment, it's just doing it every day and pushing for more and better and,
But I guess you had, presumably when you looked at the numbers sort of 1 year on, we're speaking the day after, did you get like a lump in your throat? Did you think, oh, this is working now? Oh, I'm actually doing this, or I'm actually achieving something.
Yeah. So I have these little moments of clarity where I go, wow, what is going on? Are we actually doing this? Have we actually done this? Has this all been a dream? Because obviously the way the service has panned out is beyond our wildest dreams and expectations. And I do have these small moments of clarity where I go, that was incredible. That whole thing's incredible. It's great. But then they're very fleeting, and I'll go, right, okay, on to the next. What can we achieve now? What more can we do? And I feel sorry for these guys because they do incredible work, and I'm just, what's next? What's bigger? How can we grow the service? How can we tap into more demographics of people? It's just about not stopping and pushing and keeping going, I suppose, isn't it?
If people are listening to this and hearing about the project for the first time, you mentioned, stepping in the door. Tell us physically, where are you? What time can they come down, and what do they need to know?
So 57 New Chester Road in New Ferry. You can't miss it. Big black and white building. Says the Martin Gallier Project above the door, obviously. 9 till 5, Monday to Friday. Anyone can walk in off the street. I can't stress enough that we don't offer a crisis line service, and because the phones aren't manned, we just haven't got any money to do that. If anyone's got any money to give us to do that, that would be great. But we can't offer a crisis line service. So I still always say, Samaritans 116 123, or if you're in immediate danger, it's 999, obviously. But between the hours of 9 and 5, you can just walk in that front door and the kettle's on.
We've got with us in the studio Jess Gallier from Gallier House. We're talking about the Martin Gallier Project, and we've got two of the volunteers in the studio now, Gary and Paul. Paul, great to see you both. How are we?
Hello. We're fine.
What's Jess like? I'm going to call her the boss.
Oh, God.
I paid for the curry last night.
That's true.
Oh, there you go.
We have a great banter with her. She is amazing. She's just amazing.
It's incredible work, and obviously, sometimes I guess 1 year on from setting up the project, you get an opportunity to kind of look back as well. But as Jess said, you're always on about new ideas and new things going on at the moment, and you're all about the man cave.
Yeah.
At the moment, just tell us about the man cave, how it came about, and how people can get involved in it.
Well, the biggest stigma with men is they don't talk. So we've started on a Monday night, 6:30 to 8 p.m. ish. Sometimes it goes on a lot longer. Just for men to come along, have a cuppa, chat, just tell us what the problems are, and just help them out and signpost them in the right direction.
So you're doing that tonight, right?
Yeah.
So 6:30 tonight.
Tonight, yeah.
Yeah, 6:30 tonight. So 8ish. Sometimes we go on a lot longer, depends on how it's going. But yeah.
Now this is the thing that will put men off. They'll think, well, what will happen when I go there? Will there be somebody there? Will I have to sign a register? Will I have to give details? They'll think, where is it? I can't imagine. I can't picture the place. So, is there parking nearby? These are the things that go through men's head as to why to just put it off until another week. What would you say to actively encourage men to listen to this right now today to come along?
I would say just get your foot through that front door. That's the main thing. Is you get your foot through that door. We're very open. We're not very clinical or anything like that. We just come in. You don't have to sign anything. Just come and have a chat. We have a good laugh, and we put you at ease.
You're not going to demand their medical history?
No, not at all. So it's nothing clinical based at all. You just come in, have a chat, and anything that's disturbing on your mind or anything like that, you can talk. We can go to a separate room if you need to.
Okay. So what's on the agenda, say, for tonight? So if I come through the door tonight and then I sit down and somebody presumably offers me a drink.
Yeah. Tea, coffee, plenty of biscuits.
And what will happen then?
We'll have a chat. We've got darts, table football to use as icebreakers for people to start talking.
Trivial pursuits and things like that. Anything to break the ice. But again, it's usually we do have quite a few regular people that come through the doors as well now. So they can sort of settle things down.
Yeah, because I was going to ask you that. Presumably, the people who've been coming through the doors and are now part of it, they spot.
Yeah, they do.
They spot, the newbies coming in, and presumably that allows them to open the conversation.
Exactly. And it's a very welcome community. So once they start talking, start chatting along, it gets on really well. You really get on well.
And when people come 1 week, do you find that they come back the next week? Do they drop in once a month? What sort of relationship do you find that people are having with the Man Cove?
We've got a core team who come in, about 10, 20 people. And then other people will drop in for a week, go missing for a bit. If they go missing for a bit, if they've on our Facebook page, then we can message them on that, just to see how they're doing and that. And then you find when they haven't been for a few weeks, if you message them, then they're back the next week. So it's really good.
And what do they say, anecdotally? What do they say to you about sort of what they get out of the sessions?
Well, there's quite a few who come along who are isolated on their own and that, so they're really made up that they've got something they can do. On the Monday nights, I say we do the scale electric starts and that, and we're going to start a second night of the week where we can actually go out and do bowling, laser quest, things like that. Because we found out a couple of weeks ago, we were out at an open mic night and someone turned up at the centre and obviously we weren't there, so that made us a bit disappointed because we weren't there. So as I say, we're going to start a second night going out somewhere as well.
Jess, it feels as well with the team that yourself and the guys are doing, there's almost like a nice little infrastructure for certain days of the week, times where people can come down. Of course, you've got the 9 to 5 going on, but presumably as well, people now get a sense that if it is a Monday, they know the man cave's on, and if it's a Tuesday, it'll be something else, and if it's a Wednesday, something else.
Yeah, that's the idea, to to fill the diary up with different activities, because it's not one size fits all, is it? For somebody it might be sport, for somebody it might be outdoorsy stuff. I'm not that somebody. I don't like sport or outdoorsy stuff. But for someone it might be music, for someone it might be art, and it's just about tapping into those different demographics of people with different offerings on different days of the week, I suppose.
Is there anything that's come to you in terms of like information or insight from some of you, the people who come through the door, that's made you think, oh, hang on a minute, I need to think about things differently? Because you're looking at this from the point of view of your own lived experience with your dad, but of course the wider inquest sort of structure as well. Presumably when people come to you, they've got their own insights and their own experiences. Is there anything that springs to mind that makes you think, right, here's something new, here's something we've not been able to touch on?
Something we're seeing a lot of at the moment, and like I said about this evolving and rolling with it thing, this is a prime example. Something we're seeing a lot of at the moment is men that haven't got access to their children. So men that can't see their kids, and the kids are the things that they're living for, that they're it's keeping them alive, and suddenly they're in this situation where due to relationship breakdown they can't see their children, and that's been a big learning curve for us, because obviously I don't know anything about that. We've just had to learn it as we go along. We've seen that seems to be a massive trend at the moment. What else? A lot of parents worried about children, and I'm not talking teenagers, I'm talking kids, like actual children. Children saying really concerning things about considering suicide. There's a couple of little trends like that weren't what we expected.
And presumably, if you were a more maybe clinical background, with things like that, you'd kind of go, well, that's not our expertise. You need to speak to citizens' advice or something like that for the the family breakdown situations. But presumably, from the work that you're doing, because you're about the community, you almost have to then look into it. You have to become experts in family law.
Yeah.
Presumably have conversations with solicitors about what's going on and why that person's in that situation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've personally learned a lot over this year about things that I never thought I would learn about. And it's it's good to learn, isn't it? But my head's so full of information that I never thought I'd have to carry. But it's just about kind of working out what it is for them that's the problem and finding a solution. And I'll quite often say, don't actually know the answer to this, but how about we find it together? And that's what we're all about. That's the ethos, really. That's what we model. We're not there to save their life. We're there to do that work with them and to help them, save their own life, really. And we do a lot of kind of it's quite collaborative, really, how we work with people. We work with them to find the answers rather than doing it for them.
So can I ask you about that in terms of where we place sort of the work that you do within the wider context of the NHS and its response to mental health and the structures that are in place when people maybe report a mental health issue to their maybe GP or they come through a different service. Have you kind of got a sense yourself, because you're talking there about a community response, a non-clinical response? Some people will require a clinical response, maybe people will require that. But where do you see yourself? Are you one of almost like a grassroots movement? Can you be part of the absolute solution? Would you like to see that idea of social prescription becoming the absolute norm, so that a conversation with a GP maybe takes you through you first before a more clinical set of circumstances, medications maybe? Have you sort of placed yourself somewhere within that framework?
Yeah, so the way I see it, there's two categories really for me. There's people that are considering suicide because of a serious mental health condition that will need that clinical intervention, as you say. But then there's a lot of people that are considering suicide that haven't got any diagnosed mental health and are considering suicide due to a number of factors, circumstances, if you will, things that are going on in their life, and that's where the non-clinical setting works, because it's just humans dealing with humans, and if we can't deal with it, we find a community resource that can. We're so connected, and we're so lucky where we are. There's so many amazing community organisations that we can work with. In terms of the bigger picture and the NHS, I don't know where we sit on that. I don't know where we sit or where we want to sit. I don't think we'd ever want to be funded by the NHS, as much as it would be lovely to have the money to do the work we do. But I think what we do is so different to the norm, the clinical setting, that I don't know how that would work.
But I had Joe Rafferty from Merseycare came on the programme, and I said to him, we're talking about the life rooms setup that they have this side of the water. And I said, could there be on every high street essentially a mental health drop-in centre? And he basically said yes, basically, and that's what you've got there in New Ferry. And actually, it's just that idea that if you go through your door, you're just stepping into an environment which is understanding, and an environment which might be absolutely beneficial to you. But if it's not, you guys are also equipped to signpost to a different environment, knowing that if that connection is made, there's a timely response from a different organisation, maybe from a more clinical sort of environment as well. And I think that you guys being a touch point within your community, it's one of the best things going for you, because people might think, well, who do I call? What do I speak to? Oh, there's this shop front in town. I can just go in there. I think that can be a real win. When we're all thinking about what's on the high street now, it's betting shops and charity shops. Having a potential life-saving organisation on your high street has got to be a boom for any town, right?
Well, yeah, you'd think so, wouldn't you? I mean, I'm only 29 and I sound like I'm about 60 when I say this. I miss being able to walk into a bank or, and actually speak to a human being. And I think that might be part of why people get so disheartened, especially when they're waiting for counselling and things like that you can't just go and speak to a normal human being anymore, can you? You've got to you've got to press 1 and go through on this and all that kind of stuff. And for someone to just be able to walk through a front door with absolutely no barriers and no waiting, it just works.
Yeah, and I can't help but think, and I mentioned this before, and Gary, I'll bring you back into the conversation alongside Paul as well, that idea of social isolation, that we've got this idea because we're on Facebook now, we've all got loads of friends and followers, we've got loads of mates because we remember people from school from however many years ago, but they're not there to shake hands with or look in the eye. And I just wonder whether you had that when you get guys coming through the door, that they feel, even though they may be, in a work environment most of the day, they still have a sense of isolation. They're not able to make that connection.
Yeah, well, when they come in, we give them, sometimes we get big handshakes, big hugs, seeing how they're actually feeling. So,
I think mobiles and things like today from my generation. Well, I'm in my 40s now. When we didn't have mobiles, and we still used to have to talk to people, like you were saying. But it's the environment that we're in these days, and people need to have that communication to talk and sit down and sit alongside people, and that's what probably a lot of people miss. And that isolation is, if somebody's been on their own and living on their own, it's a male. They're not getting that social impact only if they're using the phones and stuff. But
I think
they still need to come in.
I think even with phones now, I think there is a thing now. If you ask everybody who's got a smartphone that they pay £45 a month for, when was the last time you made or received a phone call? I see people not answering a phone because they're looking at it ringing and going, "What's going on here?" And it's just that idea of that idea that that's an awkward conversation, or it's an inappropriate conversation or whatever. But it's that human contact. Sometimes I kind of get it when humans come into a room together, things kind of get done a little bit more.
Yeah,
They do.
And I think sometimes that might be the only person that that individual's seen all week. That might be the only interaction they've had all week. They might have, if they're very isolated, they might not have seen anybody else. They might not have any family. We see a lot of retired men that haven't got that work banter environment anymore. They, the families live far away, and they'll come to like the man cave, and that's probably the only interaction they've had in the week. And you just see that it means the world to them, and that human contact as well. Like the boys said, like everyone's open to giving hugs. And sometimes that's what someone needs, and you hug someone in the centre and you can tell they really need that hug.
I read a thing, this was before I became a dad, which was basically never be the first person to let go of a hug. Always let the other person let go first, because you don't know how long they might need to have a hug for. I mean, if you just say goodbye to your mate, but it doesn't have to be a hard and fast rule, but it did make me think that you could just hug someone, but let them break away first, because then at least then it's on their terms when they've given everything they need. Does that make sense?
It does. But now I believe that, so we probably shouldn't hug again, because we're going to be standing here forever.
Oh, yeah. We'll just be there. Just for the passage of time, just hugging, thinking, she obviously needs a hug. She obviously makes a real hugger. He's really into his hugging. He really is. We'll do that as a fundraiser. We'll come down, we'll just hug everyone, right? Oh, yeah. We'll charge everyone at £3. £3, and we'll do it as a fundraiser. You mentioned you don't want NHS funding, not that you'd turn down large amounts of funding. What do you do for funding and in terms of fundraising, and what have you got coming up?
So fundraising. So obviously we received grant from the National Lottery, which kickstarted us, and we're just in the interim waiting for maybe a bigger pot from the National Lottery. So in the interim, we're in this position where we rely completely on money that's been raised. So a lot of people do a lot of incredible things for us, and then we run our own fundraising stuff as well. So we've got a ball coming up on the 20th of March, and that's to celebrate the first birthday, really celebrate the zero suicide rate. It's the first day of spring. It's about looking forward to see, where do we take it, how do we grow it from here. So we've got the ball coming up. We had a fundraiser at the weekend, didn't we? What else have we got coming up?
I know about these curry nights.
We've got the Walk of Life coming up again on, I think it's the 18th of April, where we're going to walk around some of the bridges over the M53. We do it as a fundraiser, and also we put notes of hope on the bridges. So we've got that.
Yep. Yeah, and some people I'm overwhelmed by, I get emails every day from people saying, I'm really touched by the story, and I want to fundraise, and I want to do this. And some people do some amazing things for us. Great
stuff. And you got your man cave, that's open tonight, 6:30. Yeah. Tell us the address again.
57 New Chester Road, New Ferry.
And if you've never been before, you're more than welcome.
More than welcome.
Yeah. You'll meet Gary and Paul. You'll know it's them because they're wearing T-shirts. They say on it, Gary and Paul.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty simple as well.
Just in case we forget our names, innit?
There's also April the 4th, some guys who friend died by suicide. They're putting on a trance night in Liverpool.
It's all gone. So your social media is a good place to be for that, and more as well. If people want to do searches for that one, what do they need to look for,
the Martin Gallier Project.
So the Martin Gallier Project, which you can find, if you just type that in online, it's the first thing that comes up with links to gallierhouse.co.uk, and it's all up there and it's all online. That's everything. Thank you all for your time. Congratulations on the incredible year that you've had. Here's to the next few years as well, and we'll catch up with you again very soon. Enjoy the Man Cave tonight as well. It's Radio City Talk. Mental Health Monday.
Mental Health Monday with Mick Coyle
on Radio City Talk.